Welcome to the Leapfrog BI sample project video series. My name is Paul Felix, and in this video we're going to be discussing the fact component. Fact components build fact tables. They use either transform or PSA components as their source, and they nearly always reference dimension components. We're going to jump right in here and take a look at a fact component that has been created previously. Prior to this, we've been working in a sample project where we were actually creating components in each of these videos, but in this case I think it's more important that I actually show a fact component that is part of a project that has already been built out. If you remember from our current project, our sample project, we only built out a single dimension, being the product dimension. Well, when we look at our fact component, one of the most important parts is how we relate that fact to all of the dimensions that we want to relate to it. So we'll have the opportunity here to look at that with more than one dimension being available. So let's jump in here and first take a look at our dimensions that we have in this project. I should mention this project is also based on the same data set as the sample project. In our sample project, we were building out this product dimension, but you can see in this particular project we also have several other dimensions that have been created. So I'm going to jump over now to my fact component, and in this case I only have one. If I look at the usage map, I can see that a set of the dimensions, actually all of the dimensions in this project, have been related or utilized by this fact component. And I also have two different non-dimension components, both being PSA components that have been used by this fact component. So let's actually, one other thing I want to point out, the source component is this order header. So there's an order header here, you can see in the usage map, as well as an order detail. So just by looking at this information, I can tell that a couple of things. I know that this fact component uses the order header as its source. I know that order detail has been joined to this fact component, so there's facts in that order detail that I want to use. And I also know that all of these dimensions have been referenced to this fact component, meaning that once this component is deployed, there's going to be a foreign key that establishes the relationship between each fact and all of these dimensions that are listed. So let's jump in here and see how this is done. So let's first of all, let's talk about dimensions. This is what we're just talking about. So let's see how we actually define the relationship between a fact and a dimension. I'm going to go into this associated dimension area and modify. Now in this area, it should look extremely familiar, and that's because associating a dimension to a fact is nearly identical to defining a join, any join, rather than in any type of component. I have, in this case, if we take a look at product, if I select product definition or join definition, I can see that this is joined to, or using a left outer join to my fact table, and it is also using an on clause here called prod ID to prod ID. Now a couple of things I want to point out. All components are aliased in Leapfrog BI, so anytime I see a K, I know that that's a foreign key to a dimension, or it's I should say it's an alias to a dimension table. Anytime I have a J, it's another type of join, a join other than a foreign or a dimension join. So here I know, as we've already pointed out, that we have actually joined to the detail table. So J1 is my detail table. I'll show where that information can be retrieved in a moment. But I have created an expression here that says join to my dim product using a left outer join, and do that where the product ID in J1 is equal to the product ID in dim product. And that's pretty much it. By doing that, I now can ensure that the foreign keys will be loaded to my fact, which will get me back to the appropriate product. Finally, I need to give this foreign key a name, a friendly name. In this case, I just typed in the word product. All foreign keys will be prefixed with FK underscore. So in this case, we'll have a foreign key called FK underscore product. That's it. I'll do that same thing for all of the dimensions that I want to relate to this fact table. And when I'm done, I'll just click done. And I'm really most of the way complete here with defining my fact table. As I've pointed out several times now, this particular component uses multiple components as the source. So it has the header, the sales header component as the primary source, but we also needed to use some fields in this sales order detail table. So we again have just joined, this is J1, the first join. We've joined our detail to this component. And if I select that order detail, I can see this is a left outer join. Once again, the on clause expression has been defined. Very simple, order detail ID equals order detail ID. So by doing that, I'm able to use the fields in that order detail. Let's go down and take a look at the field list. I can see that I do have the first three facts here, which are sourced from my joined component, order detail. And then I have a few other facts here. And these are actually showing that the source is this component, this fact store sales component. And in that case, if I'm showing that it's sourced from itself, that means that these particular facts have been sourced from expressions that were created in this component. So if I look at, say, line total, and the definition here says it's an expression called line total money. All I did there was make a change to the data type, I believe, to this particular measure, so that once it did get written out to the fact table, the data type was in the format that I wanted it to be in. I can take a look at that lineage for that particular fact. I can see that it's sourced from this component, fact store sales line to money. So it's pretty straightforward to see how this particular field is sourced from this expression. Again, this being the expression. If I want the details, I can go jump straight over to that expression. I can see that in fact it is a conversion function that was applied here. And I can just continue to investigate this to learn more about what was defined. The last thing I want to point out here is that there are quite a few expressions that have been created for this component. And a lot of these expressions, such as ship date year key, ship date month key, these expressions were created because the field that I had a field that was in a date time format, and I wanted it to be a smart date key, where I have my year, month, day in an 8 numeric format. Totally optional, of course, but that was something that I wanted to do. And lastly, this particular fact table is loaded incrementally. So I have some logic here in my filter, which again just references an expression, which is the not online order and new record expression, which ensures that only new records are loaded into this fact table. Now there's also a portion of this expression that ensures that only non-online orders are loaded into this fact table. So you can do pretty much anything you want to do here, or you can use all types of complex logic to establish your filter. It all really comes down to creating the expressions that define that logic. So that's about it for the fact table. If I go back over here and take a quick look at that fact table and where we ended up in this particular project, show the extended map, we can see that there's actually quite a bit of usage here, or up and downstream, well, just upstream lineage. And whenever I am ready to deploy this component, I would just simply go over to deploy, and that gets us right into our next video, which is where we're going to talk about exactly how do we deploy this project now that we have it in place. So I'll see you in the next video.